Hi, this is Rory with 3D Engineering Builds, and this is the instructional video for the Kerfmaker-Dado Jig. Let's get started. Pick up the device so we can get familiar with it. Here you'll notice that there are two thumb screws, an upper and a lower. The lower thumb screw has a greater travel distance, while the upper thumb screw has a shorter one. Looking around the device, you'll see a few faces. Face A, face B, and if you unscrew the lower thumb screw and slide the device out, you'll see face C, followed by face D. You'll also notice there's another face that has a letter V followed by a few numbers. That's the back face. So to get started, take face C and face D and push them close together. Then tighten the lower thumb screw so that they're touching, and it'll lock it in place. Take some scrap wood, and we're going to take about a 1 inch by 1 inch corner out of that. You can use any way you want, but in here I'll use a table saw on my crosscut sled. And this doesn't have to be exact, just approximately 1 inch by 1 inch. And we'll make sure to cut the entire corner out, but we'll save both pieces because we're going to need them. Now take both pieces, once the blade stops of course, lay them flat on the ground, and you'll push that piece, that corner piece, back into the scrap wood that you cut it out of. And you'll notice that there's a small difference. Now that's obviously going to be the thickness of your blade. Now loosen the upper thumb screw so that face B can slide freely relative to face A. And you'll lay it flat on the ground. When you've got it back on the ground, you'll push the jig up against the corner of your scrap wood. Face B should be touching the scrap wood piece, while face A should be touching the corner cut piece. And you'll notice if you push them together, just like this, you'll see that there's a small gap. That gap is going to represent the width of the blade. Now tighten the upper thumb screw to lock face B in place relative to face A. You can use that to put it back against the wood to check it and make sure that it's correct. Make any adjustments if necessary. Now loosen the lower thumb screw to slide face C away from face D. And take a piece of scrap wood and make sure that scrap wood is the same thickness as the dado that you'd like to make. And in my example, I'm using a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Sandwich that piece between face C and D, and then use the lower thumb screw to tighten it in place and lock it down. Then you can slide the scrap wood out between the two faces, being careful not to move them in the process. Once you've got that done, you've now set up your jig correctly to make a dado. Now in order to make the cut, I'm going to take a piece of scrap wood and cut a dado in it using this jig. I've already got my table saw with a crosscut sled and a stop block set up. I'm putting the back face against the stop block, with face B sticking out further than face A. I'm also using one of my other Etsy products. It's a setup block, and I'm setting the blade height to 3/8. Now taking the scrap plywood, I'm setting it against face B. And when I push it through the crosscut sled, it'll be one of the outside faces of my dado. We'll call that cut 1. Now once that's through the crosscut sled, we'll slide it over and readjust the jig so that the plywood will now be touching face A instead. And we're going to run it through the crosscut sled one more time, making cut 2. This will be the other outside face of your dado. And once you're done, remove the jig out of the way and simply slide the scrap wood over to remove the remaining wood between those two outside faces. You won't need a jig for this. Once we're done, take a look at your piece. Take the scrap wood you used, place it in the dado you just cut for a test fit, and there you have it. Thanks for watching. If you like this and other woodworking products, you can visit my Etsy shop at 3dengineeringbuilds.etsy.com.